Did Donald Trump secretly strike a deal with Black leaders? His support from Black voters doubled in 2024. Why? Could it be linked to the explosive debate around slavery reparations? And what does Trump really think about paying Black Americans for the sins of the past? This video reveals the shocking truth behind Trump's stance on reparations and what it means for the future of Black America. In the 2024 American election, a significant shift occurred. Black voters turned out for Donald Trump in far greater numbers than ever before. His previous support within this demographic hovered around 10%, but this election saw that figure double to 20%. This surge is remarkable, considering the historically strong allegiance of Black voters to the Democratic Party. It begs the question, did some undisclosed agreement transpire between Donald Trump and Black leaders and business figures? Could this increased support be linked to the discussions surrounding slavery reparations, particularly given the apparent distrust in Kamala Harris among some within the Black community? This video will explore Donald Trump's perspective on slavery reparations, examining his pronouncements and potential future actions. The dialogue surrounding slavery reparations has spanned decades. However, the issue gained significant momentum when California spearheaded an initiative to address the enduring consequences of centuries of racial discrimination. The state's Reparations Task Force, entrusted with investigating these impacts and suggesting concrete solutions, delivered a striking recommendation in 2023: direct cash payments of up to $350,000 to eligible African Americans. This proposal sparked a national debate, advocating for similar studies and actions in other states, or even a nationwide expansion of the California model. This election became a choice between two candidates and their respective positions on reparations, both in terms of promises and potential action. Kamala Harris, instead of committing to direct payments, underscored the need for a comprehensive study on financial reparations before any concrete action. She redirected the conversation toward her broader economic agenda, centered on empowering Black communities through wealth-building initiatives. Essentially, Harris favored fostering equal opportunity rather than direct payments. Harris emphasized the complexity of the reparations issue, stating that it demanded thorough investigation. This cautious approach reflected the political sensitivities surrounding the topic, allowing her to avoid alienating potential swing voters. She portrayed her economic agenda as one aligned with the aspirations of Black Americans, particularly regarding financial independence. For Harris, promoting entrepreneurship, home ownership, and access to capital offered a more sustainable path to closing the racial wealth gap than direct cash reparations. However, with Donald Trump's victory, the focus shifts to his plans. While his win surprised many Black Americans, his beliefs on slavery reparations will undoubtedly impact the lives of nearly 50 million Black Americans. Slavery reparations weren't a prominent issue during Trump's 2016 campaign. When occasionally addressed, Trump expressed skepticism, questioning the fairness and practicality of reparations, and suggesting they could exacerbate racial divisions. By the midpoint of his first term, the reparations discussion gained traction among Democratic candidates, but Trump remained dismissive. In a 2019 interview, he stated bluntly that he didn't see reparations happening, arguing that they would deepen racial divides rather than promote unity. He viewed the Democrats' push for reparations as a political tactic rather than a genuine attempt to address historical wrongs. The 2020 resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the renewed calls for reparations following George Floyd's murder did not sway Trump. He remained steadfast in his opposition, prioritizing law and order and economic policies like tax cuts and job creation over compensatory payments. He consistently argued that reparations unjustly penalized those with no direct connection to slavery and represented an unfair redistribution of wealth. Even after leaving office, Trump continued to criticize reparations, framing them as a component of woke culture and a misguided policy of the left. However, Trump's rhetoric shifted, focusing on appealing to disillusioned Asian American and white voters, particularly by criticizing affirmative action. He argued that such policies discriminated against Asian Americans in favor of other minority groups, thereby broadening his appeal among those who felt overlooked by progressive policies. As the 2024 election neared, Trump surprisingly introduced a reparations plan targeting what he termed racial discrimination in education. This plan involved federal civil rights actions against institutions with allegedly biased admissions policies, with fines used to compensate supposedly discriminated against students, particularly Asian Americans. Civil rights groups criticized this as a ploy to redefine reparations, excluding African Americans. Trump's focus shifted towards perceived reverse discrimination against white Americans, causing confusion and disappointment among those who had hoped for meaningful change. He proposed fining institutions and using the funds as restitution for victims of these policies, a move interpreted by some as reparations for white Americans. This sparked outrage among Black voters. This shift aligns with Trump's criticism of DEI programs and critical race theory, which he views as discriminatory against white people. His Project 2025 plan aims to dismantle DEI programs, arguing they unfairly disadvantage white Americans. Many Black commentators, like Keith Boykin, highlighted the implications of Trump's statements, arguing that his proposed actions represented reparations for white people. This leaves Black voters, who once considered Trump a potential supporter of genuine reparations, feeling disillusioned. As Trump embarks on his second term, it remains to be seen whether he will address the historical injustices faced by Black Americans or continue prioritizing his base's perceived grievances. His track record suggests the former is unlikely. His past actions and statements cast doubt on whether he genuinely intends to address the issue of reparations for the descendants of enslaved people. It's plausible that the increased support from Black voters stemmed from disillusionment with the Democratic Party rather than a belief in Trump's commitment to reparations. The future remains uncertain, but based on his history, it seems improbable that Trump will prioritize reparations for Black communities in the manner many had hoped. It's crucial to consider the broader context. While some Black voters may have shifted their support to Trump, it's important to remember that the majority of Black voters still overwhelmingly supported the Democratic candidate. The reasons behind individual voting decisions are complex and varied, and attributing the shift solely to the issue of reparations oversimplifies a multifaceted reality. Moving forward, the discussion surrounding reparations requires a nuanced approach that acknowledges the historical injustices, the complexities of present-day inequalities, and the diverse perspectives within the Black community itself. Only through continued dialogue and engagement can we hope to achieve meaningful progress on this important issue. Furthermore, it's essential to analyze Trump's approach to policy and rhetoric. His tendency to shift focus and prioritize issues that resonate with his base raises questions about the sincerity of his pronouncements. His actions often appear driven by political expediency rather than a genuine commitment to addressing systemic inequalities. Therefore, even if he were to revisit the topic of reparations, it would be prudent to approach his statements with caution and critically examine the substance of any proposed policies. Ultimately, achieving true racial justice requires more than just symbolic gestures or politically motivated pronouncements. It demands sustained effort, concrete action, and a deep understanding of the historical and ongoing impacts of systemic racism. Finally, it's important to remember that the fight for reparations is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a long and complex struggle that requires ongoing advocacy, education, and organizing within the Black community and beyond. Regardless of any individual politician's stance, the movement for reparations must continue to build power and push for meaningful change. This includes demanding accountability from all political leaders, advocating for policies that address the root causes of racial inequality, and centering the voices and experiences of those most impacted by historical injustices. The pursuit of reparations is not just about financial compensation. It's about acknowledging the profound harm caused by slavery and its enduring legacy, and working towards a future where true racial justice and equity are realized. This ongoing work necessitates a multifaceted approach. It requires continued research and documentation of the lasting economic, social, and psychological impacts of slavery. It also demands engagement with diverse communities and perspectives to build a broad coalition for change. Furthermore, it necessitates developing comprehensive policy proposals that address not only financial reparations, but also systemic inequalities in areas such as education, housing, healthcare, and the criminal justice system. The fight for reparations is intertwined with the broader struggle for racial justice and requires a holistic approach that tackles the root causes of inequality in all its forms. It is a continuous journey that requires unwavering commitment, strategic action, and a shared vision of a more just and equitable future. This journey also involves critically examining the narratives and frameworks used to discuss reparations. It requires challenging the notion that reparations are solely about the past and emphasizing their relevance to present-day inequalities. It also necessitates dismantling the narrative that reparations are somehow unfair or divisive, and instead framing them as a necessary step towards healing and reconciliation. Furthermore, it's crucial to center the voices and leadership of Black women in this movement, recognizing the unique and disproportionate burdens they have faced due to the intersecting impacts of racism and sexism. By fostering intergenerational dialogue and building bridges across different communities, the movement for reparations can strengthen its collective power and create a more inclusive and impactful vision for the future.